Welcome to the Self-Belief Podcast, the show that we shift your self-belief in, because self-belief shifting shifts everything. I want to share with you my continued writing prompts, because this is one of the simplest ways I know to understand yourself when talking and thinking haven't helped. Continued writing is exactly what it sounds like. You write without stopping. You don't plan it. You don't think about what should come next. You just keep writing whatever comes out. And the reason this matters is because most of the time you're reacting before you've had a chance to think. Your body responds, your brain protects you. And later you're left wondering why you said yes, or snapped, shut down, or felt overwhelmed. Continued writing gives you time to slow down that reaction, time to see what's actually happening underneath it. It works because you don't stop to edit what you say to yourself. You don't pause to explain, and you don't make it sound right. You just keep writing. Because this time is just for you. Nobody else gets to see what you write. It's for your awareness and growth only. And in that space, your brain finally gets room to pause. Not to be told what to think, not to be encouraged, but to slow down enough for what's really there to come through. And that's when you start to notice your automatic reactions, the patterns you didn't realize you were repeating, the beliefs that have been quietly running in the background. That's also when evidence begins to appear. Evidence that what your brain is telling you might not be true anymore. Evidence that you still have a choice. There's a reason why I love continued writing. I love it because it supports you in those moments when your brain just feels so busy, defensive, or stuck, and you just don't actually know why you're reacting in a particular way. If you're someone who thinks a lot but still feels stuck, this creates space without pressure. And if you're someone who reacts rather than thinks, this gives you time to notice and become more aware. You'll find continued writing in my book, inside my membership, and available on my website. And the links are down below. There are moments in the day where something happens and your system automatically responds before you've even had any time to think. You agree to something, you explain yourself, you keep going when you just don't want to. Well, not because you've consciously decided to, but before you've even noticed whether or not you want to. Welcome back to the Self-Belief Podcast. I'm Jenny Field, and just being me. Today I want to talk to you about something that catches a lot of people out, and I know it used to do it for me as well. And that's the difference between reacting and choosing. So those moments where your body moves first, automatically, before you've had time to slow anything down, before you've noticed whether or not you want to say yes, before you've noticed whether or not you want to explain, and before you've noticed whether or not you want to keep going. And then afterwards, you feel it. You feel it tight in your chest. And that irritation, the irritation that doesn't quite make sense. And that drained feeling that feels bigger than the actual situation itself. And by the time you notice, the moment of saying no is gone. And then even though you've thought about it, had a moan about it, and said you're never going to do that again, the next time, exactly the same thing happens. Most people blame somebody else if they just didn't do that. Or they tell themselves it's just who they are. I'm easygoing. I don't like conflict. I just get on with things. But you know, this isn't about anybody else, and this isn't about personality. It's about how your body reacts when there is pressure, when someone expects something from you, when no feels so awkward, and when disappointing someone, well, that just feels really, really uncomfortable. Because in those moments, your body, your system, moves automatically before your thinking brain can get involved. Because your brain isn't focused on what you want, It's focused on what feels safest. And safety to the brain doesn't mean what's healthy for you. It means what's familiar. It means what's worked before in another situation. So what avoided tension? What kept things calm? So if staying quiet once stopped you having an argument, your brain remembers that as safe. If agreeing with somebody once kept the peace, it remembers that as protection. And if explaining yourself once stopped you being questioned, it remembers that too. So a pattern forms, and your brain keeps using the same responses again and again. Not because they're right for you now, but because they worked back then and they kept you safe. For a long time, one of my own automatic responses was to explain. Explaining why I was doing something, explaining why it made sense, explaining why it was reasonable. Not because anybody asked me, but because being understood felt safer than being questioned. Because at some point in my life, being questioned didn't feel okay. It felt risky. It felt unsafe. Like I might be doing something wrong or difficult or something that I wasn't allowed to do. So explaining became automatic. My way of staying safe. My way of staying included. My brain didn't see this as a problem. It saw it as protection. And that matters. Because when your brain believes something is protecting you, it uses it, and it uses it quickly, automatically, without checking if it's actually still needed. So when a similar situation shows up again, your system doesn't pause, it reacts. That's why you hear yourself saying yes, while part of you already feels uncomfortable. That's why you keep pushing on, even when you are so exhausted. That's why you explain yourself when no explanation is needed. It's not a conscious choice. Your brain isn't choosing what's supporting you, it's choosing what avoids the risk so it feels safe. Because this response once helped you cope. It helped you get through situations that felt difficult or unsafe. And the problem comes when it keeps happening long after it's needed. What once helped you cope now decides how you react. And this is where people get frustrated with themselves, because believe me, I was so frustrated with myself. Why do I keep doing this? Why can't I just stop? Why do I say yes when I just don't want to? And why do I explain myself like this? So you try to fix it by trying harder. You tell yourself that you need to be more organised, more confident, more assertive. But you know, that just doesn't work. Because this response isn't being chosen, it's happening automatically. And you can't outthink something that your body is doing as an reflex, as an instant reaction. And the shift doesn't begin with doing, it begins with the awareness. That small moment where you notice yourself mid-sentence, mid-agreement, mid-explanation. That moment where something in you goes, oh, I've done it again. That pause matters. Even if you still finish a sentence, even if you still say yes, even if you still explain. Because that pause shows your system something new. It shows your brain that this moment is being noticed. That you're not on autopilot all the way through. And over time, those pauses create space. Space between what happens and how you respond. Space where your body starts to learn that stopping doesn't automatically lead to danger. That you don't have to rush to keep things calm. That you don't have to explain yourself to be safe. That you don't have to keep pushing through to stay accepted. Nothing bad happens when you pause. And that's new information for the system. Over time, those small moments of awareness add up. Your system begins to learn a new pattern, one where you notice your actions earlier, one where reacting isn't the only option, one where choosing becomes possible again. And it isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's a quiet movement, but it's often the movement where something begins to change, where you stop reacting automatically and just start giving yourself a moment. And if this episode landed for you, if you recognise yourself here, just take that as the awareness. You don't need to change anything in a massive way today. Just notice, pause, take a breath, and come back to you. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.